It all started when a new leader came to power within Senri. At that time, they were still a rather small organization. According to Tokiko, this took place 2 years ago. Back then, Senri operated under the name Congregation of the Blessed, and they had far, far fewer followers. Their doctrines hadn't been fully fleshed out yet. The charismatic nature of the original leader had been the lifeline of the group. In those early days, their leader was somewhat deluded and didn't possess the talent to expand the church's doctrines. He also forced a bunch of women to have intercourse under the pretense that it was a holy ritual. They had numerous brushes with the law. I glanced at Arishima-san, only to find him with his face downcast. Are you not feeling well, Arishima-san?
Oh, no. It's nothing. Continue.
Okay, if you say so. Then, a sudden change took place inside the small group. Without any forewarning, the leader brought in a blind girl, saying that he had found his successor. She possessed real supernatural powers. My powers are a far cry from hers. I am not fit to lead this church, he had said. After babbling on and on as though possessed, the leader disappeared after introducing the girl to the rest of the church members.
He disappeared?
Yeah, apparently he said he was going on a 1,000-day pilgrimage, but he vanished like smoke on the wind, and nobody had any idea where he went. And that's when Akao made his debut in Senri, pretty much taking the place of the old leader. He joined the Congregation of the Blessed under the pretext that he was an old friend of the new leader, an assistant to the blind girl. Akao did brilliant work after he entered the church. He took the delusions of the previous leader, mixed in some tenets of Buddhism, Christianity, and other religions, and turned it into something anybody could understand. A hierarchy was established within the church, with the leader being at the absolute top. Members who had donated large sums of alms and those who had contributed to the church were conferred elevated status. The ranks were absolute, and higher ranks were allowed to do whatever they wanted within the church. In addition, he dangled the new leader's mystical powers like bait in front of the followers. Her prophecies could accurately see into the future, and members of high rank could ask for one at any time. Furthermore, he spread around the information that anybody could gain powers like the leader after going through religious training. His clever publicity played specifically to human desires. People clinging to faint hopes of getting what they wanted, as well as those motivated by desire, gradually began gathering to the Congregation of the Blessed. It was also Akao suggestion to change the name of the church to Senri, as Congregation of the Blessed had become infamous due to the obscene acts of the previous leader. He then publicized a certain prophecy during the grand unveiling of the new church of Senri. The apocalypse is nigh. Only those who believe in Senri shall be saved on that day. The holy prophet will exchange her own life in order to save the souls of Senri faithful. Then the prayers of the surviving faithful will miraculously resurrect the holy prophet, who will guide them through the post-apocalyptic world. That got written up into the Book of Purgatory, which was also rumored to prophesize the murders that occurred here in Ueno. People say that the bizarre murders that took place were omens. Why? Because the things written in the Book of Purgatory actually happened.
I've heard those rumors. There's some in the precinct who take it seriously, but it's nothing but a bunch of rubbish. You could interpret writings like that a million different ways. Those Senri guys are just quoting passages that happen to fit the circumstances.
That's what I thought to begin with. However, you're wrong. It's the complete opposite.
The opposite?
Yeah, this might be hard to believe since it's out of left field, but... I pull out the name list of Senri members I had gotten from Toji. Please have a look at this page. I point out a certain name.
Fukamizu Kaoru.
Yep, right there, clear as day. Fukamizu Kaoru, the person behind those bizarre serial killings, was a member of Senri.
Whoa, hold on just a second, Shugo. That's impossible. Fukamizu was a devout Christian.
That was probably just an act she put on.
What?
Kaio Academy is a missionary school with strict regulations. Their official policy is that all the teachers are Christians. Just think about it. What would happen if one of the teachers at this academy revealed themselves to be part of a shady new cult? In the best case scenario, they'd be transferred to another academy. In the worst case scenario, they might immediately lose their job. Fearing either of those possibilities, Fukamizu kept her own connections to Senri hidden. Akao was then able to use her position to achieve his own goals. Now that I think about it, there were some things regarding Fukamizu Kaoru that just didn't seem to fit. When she faced off against Toji underneath the church, she kept chanting some kind of prayer. But as far as I know, there aren't any scriptures matching it in the Bible. When I asked Shigasa Tokiko about it, my suspicions were confirmed. They were prayers from Senri. Arishima-san opens his mouth to speak, seemingly unsatisfied. However, I cut him off and continue. There was still something else that didn't sit right with me. Fukamizu confessed that she ate the bodies of the girls she killed in order to revive her own uterus. But where did such twisted thoughts arise from? Needless to say, there's nothing like that in the Bible. Perhaps she received some kind of divine revelation? But then, where did such an idea originate? As I fire off questions at Arishima-san, I'm reminded of my conversation with Nana.
It sounds a bit contrived to me. I feel like it's too cut and dry for a lunatic to have come up with it. Shugo, do you really think that Fukamizu-kun, who only lived for the present moment, would go insane in such a logical manner?
There's no way we'd be able to understand something like that. The way these crazy people think.
He mutters with evident distaste. Oh, but we do. She was guided into those actions.
What did you say?
Arishima-san eyes me suspiciously. Akao Ikuma, the person who knew how lonely and troubled she was, sowed the seeds of madness within her heart. He told her, "You need a miracle from God. To achieve that, you must."
Are you saying that man was the one pulling all the strings behind Fukamizu?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. He just gave her an outlet to fulfill the paranoid delusions she had in the first place. No matter how simple an answer it might have been, it was more than enough for Fukamizu, who had been building up a world of delusions around herself for many years. When those twisted thoughts finally found an outlet, they exhibited themselves violently. Her actions eventually led to her own destruction.
This is a load of rubbish.
Arishima-san seems disgusted.
Who the hell would believe that horseshit? In the first place, what would Akao have to gain from doing things in such a roundabout method? Are you actually trying to say that he was putting on this whole show in order to bring the leader's prophecies into reality?
Yeah. Tokiko's confession comes flooding back into my brain.
Suspicions about that book of purgatory began to form quite a long time ago within the church. Not a single one of the omens had occurred, and the apocalypse didn't seem like it was coming at all. Well, of course it wasn't.
The Book of Purgatory was something Akao had cooked up after he returned from the war, using his own nightmares as the main motifs. Simply put, it was just another tool for him to incite anxiety among the followers and strengthen their faith in the church. They were aware of that much,
But regardless, a lot of people believed that the apocalypse was nigh, and clamored to join Senri for salvation. The number of believers who knew about the prophecies grew day after day. The sheer rapidity surpassed all our expectations. There was no turning back. We stood at a crossroads. Do we reveal the Book of Purgatory as a fake? Or do we keep our lips sealed and wait for the believers to forget about the existence of the prophecies?
And that was when Akao began his terrible work. The border between delusion and reality had already become blurred for Akao. His face devoid of expression, he had declared,
"We shall make these prophecies come alive with our own hands. It is necessary in order to achieve salvation."
Shugo.
Arishima-san sighs in exasperation after hearing Tokiko's tale.
Come on, think about it rationally. There's no way things could be explained so conveniently. Let's say that the man named Akao did actually want to make these prophecies real. Let's say that much is true. Those prophecies got publicized more than 2 years ago. What would he have done if a person like Fukamizu hadn't shown up? There's no way he could have easily found someone who had the impulse to kill within them. Wouldn't his plan have come to naught if that had happened? It seems way too careless.
I'm telling you, it's the complete opposite, Arishima-san. I repeat what I told him earlier. You just said it yourself. They're just quoting passages that happen to fit the circumstances.
What are you trying to say?
That's exactly what Akao was doing. Fukamizu wasn't chosen because she matched the conditions for the prophecies. It's the other way around. He found passages from the prophecies that conformed to the pains Fukamizu felt inside her heart. If Fukamizu had been of no use to him, Akao would probably have chosen a different Senri follower. People who desire to join Senri generally bear some kind of trauma in their hearts. In Akao's case, he would have been able to find a pawn to do his bidding without much effort. I continue my explanation. However, it is true that Akao saw Fukamizu's existence as terribly convenient. The prophecies were brought to light in a ghastly manner.
And that man...
Arishima-san slowly opens his mouth to speak.
You're saying that he's the man who murdered Ayasaki Takako and Otoha? And that he displayed their corpses in the likeness of the prophecies just as Fukamizu had done?
Yeah, that's what Shigasa Tokiko told me.
Unbelievable. If he went to such roundabout methods to get the job done, why would he dirty his own hands?
Shigasa Tokiko said that there were a number of terrible coincidences that led to that. Ota's protégés had been sucked into Senri, and when she went to get them back, Ota learned about the lurid state of affairs within the organization.
I was summoned by Akao. By the time I went underground to take a look, it was already over. He had dealt with her because she had seen something she shouldn't have. And there would have been hell to pay afterward.
Is what Akao had told Shigasa Tokiko. However, she could not accept what he said, because the dismembered corpse she had seen was indescribably grotesque. If he just wanted to stop Ota from talking, he needn't have gone that far. He could have just told one of the lower-ranking faithful to take care of it. Akao was probably unable to contain himself. He saw the fallen body before him as raw material. That's why Akao was burning with such twisted passion, and why he thought the corpse before him was filled with sublime beauty. Then...
Akao stood and laughed in front of her dismembered body. I think I'm going to pin this one on Fukamizu and make it another one of the omens, he said. Then he ordered me to clean up the butchered corpse.
So they're entirely corrupt.
Are you aware that there are Senri members in the upper echelons of our government and corporations?
Yeah, I've heard rumors, but...
They don't believe in the Senri faith. They're just connected to Senri because they partake in the entertainment that Akao provides. Ota's protégés were used for that entertainment.
Forced prostitution.
He used that as bribery so they would approve Senri's activities. That's the basic gist of it. Arishima-san ponders it silently. He had Shigasa Tokiko dispose of Ota's corpse. That's what she was doing when she was spotted in Ueno Park. Furthermore, it seems that Shigasa Tokiko was uninvolved with the other case, Ayasaki Takako's murder. She had begun to distance herself from the church as she was getting suspicious of Akao's motives at the time. And that's when Ayasaki Takiko's murder happened. I paused momentarily. Arishima-san has a grim look on his face.
That man's actions.
He begins, his voice no more than a murmur.
This new leader just sat there and looked past them. Whether or not he was acting on behalf of the church, Akao's actions were beyond abnormal.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, but I continue with another fragment of Tokiko's tale.
However, she's already been killed.
Killed, you say?
He cocks his head in suspicion.
That's strange, no? If the leader was killed, surely there would have been more unrest within the ranks. But I don't remember hearing anything about them changing leaders.
Well, of course not. Senri maintains a peaceful appearance on the outside. Besides, I had personally met and talked with the leader. She's alive and well.
What are you getting at, Shugo?
The irritation in his voice starts to show. Arishima-san's annoyed because he can't see where this is all leading. Basically, to sum it all up, I then give him the answer. The current leader is a fake.
In the Book of Purgatory, it's written that the leader will take her own life to save the world from the apocalypse. She would then be resurrected, resulting in the completion of God's miracle.
In order to make that happen, Akao picked out a girl from the congregation who resembled the leader. He even made her face look like the leader's and had her play the role of a body double. However, the girl must have caught on to Akao's plan as she took the first chance she got to escape from the cult. The place she chose to take refuge in was a mansion that belonged to one of the executives of the Hand of Death. In other words, the girl who was spotted in Ueno, the girl who brought me into this case. She wasn't Yura at all.
The death of the body double and the advent of the leader's resurrection, that should have fulfilled the prophecies. However, one night...
Something happened?
Shigasa Tokiko saw something. And that was the body double secretly burying the body of the leader in the mountains behind the Senri compound. Ever since then, the leader hasn't shown herself in front of others, and Akao seized the reins of the cult for himself. And at some point, Shigasa Tokiko began to harbor suspicions about the leader and Akao.
So, what's that man's goal?
Eh?
He goes as far as to put on this whole show of making the leader's prophecies come true. It's pure madness.
Arishima-san continues, his voice lowered to a murmur.
I can kind of understand if you were a religious nut or something, but from what you've told me, it doesn't seem that cut and dry.
Yeah, who knows? I try racking my brains for an answer. In reality, my first impression of Akao leads me to believe that he's too cool and calculating to be some sort of religious fanatic. Apparently, Akao didn't inform Shigasa Tokiko about his true intentions. But the thing is, he did seem to harbor some abnormally deep feelings of attachment for the leader. There are a lot of blanks in his personal history before he showed up in Senri. He calls himself an artist, and he's reasonably well known, but according to Shigasa Tokiko, he was a member of some special forces unit that fought in a bunch of battles on the mainland during the war.
How mysterious.
I glumly nod my agreement. Time passes as we both sit there in silence. Arishima-san finally breaks the silence after pondering things.
The woman who confessed all that to you, Shigasa Tokiko, right? Is she safe right now? If Senri's really the cult you say they are, they probably won't let her get away.
I'm hiding her at my new apartment, so I think she's safe for the time being.
New apartment? What happened to your place at the brothel?
I've moved out of my room at the Yukishiro. Apparently, my presence there was just causing everyone else trouble. I asked Toji to get me a place at an apartment complex down in Aoimachi. Arishima-san hedges his words as though he's finally understood the meaning behind what I've said.
Oh, is it because we went inside the place? Sorry about that.
Nah, it was about time I left anyhow. There's no way I could have imposed on Madame Mujaku's hospitality forever. I put on a wry grin as I shrug. Well, even though I got myself a new place, it looks like I might have to part with it soon. We're in quite a mess.
Oh?
There's a chance that some people in the neighborhood spotted Shigasa Tokiko as I was taking her over there. I had Toji go and prepare a safe house. The Senri cultists probably won't be able to get to us if we're in the Hand of Death's territory.
Hold it, Shugo. Does that mean that the only people in your room right now are that girl and Kohzuki Kazuna?
Yeah, that's right.
How careless can you be? Right now she's our sole witness. And you're entrusting her to a lone civilian girl, of all people?
No, you've got it wrong. Toji stationed one of her underlings there. They should be safe as long as the building doesn't burn down or anything.
I see.
Arishima-san nods, evidently satisfied.
But this is all rather shocking.
He pulls out a cigarette from his breast pocket, a wry grin on his face. Hell, I feel the same way.
I'm gonna go cool my head for a bit outside. I'll come back after I've had a smoke. So you just wait here, Shugo.
Sure thing. Tokiko confessed all these sordid details about Senri's inner workings to me just a few hours ago. It was more bizarre than I had ever imagined. I still haven't really finished putting all the pieces together. I can understand how perplexed Arishima-san must be feeling now.
Sorry about this.
With that smile still on his face, Arishima-san vanishes outside. A few minutes later, I finish draining my cup of coffee. As I look around to order a refill,
Hey, sorry about the wait.
there are flakes of snow clinging to the shoulders of Arishima-san's coat. I guess it started snowing. How'd it go? Were you able to wrap your head around the matter?
Well,
He ponders things for a moment before answering.
if everything you've told me is true, then I worry for Shigasa Tokiko's safety. She is our sole witness. The Senri cultists aren't just going to sit on their behinds and let her get away. In any case, I think it's best if I took her down to the station for protection. She'll probably have to answer for the crime of disposing of a corpse, but we can arrange to lessen her charges if she cooperates with the investigation.
Okay, she'll agree to that. However, there are several conditions that need to be met for her cooperation.
I see. One of them being to lessen her charges if she helps, right? Come to think of it, she really didn't want to be in the public eye.
No, it's a bit different. Shigasa Tokiko wants the leader of Senri to be protected. She also wishes for the continued existence of the church.
Oh?
Arishima-san narrows his eyes in surprise. Tokiko's afraid of returning to Senri without anybody believing her story. To be honest, it is a rather bizarre-sounding tale. Tokiko herself realizes that her story will not be easily accepted. That's why she was unsure of what path to take. Who could she rely on? Who could she trust? And that's when Kazuna and I showed up.
How commendable of her. But why is she so hung up about Senri?
Well, it's just as Arishima-san said. Besides it being her religion, there's another reason Shigasa Tokiko is so attached to Senri. Well, the reason is related to Shigasa Tokiko's own personal affairs.
I want you to find my father. I couldn't leave the church until I figured out where he was.
She's searching for her father.
Arishima-san's voice is tinged with disbelief. I nod and continue. Her father's name is Shigasa Michio. He was a Senri leader. the man who disappeared 2 years ago. It happened back when Senri was still called the Congregation of the Blessed. Shigasa Tokiko was the product of her father Michio and an obscure female follower. She was raised until adulthood in the congregation. Her mother, a passionate believer of Michio's teachings, forced her young daughter to adopt the teachings of the church. Isolated inside the church's facilities, without any knowledge of the outside world, Tokiko was instructed that the leader's words were absolute. Her young mind was gradually indoctrinated in the ways of the Congregation of the Blessed. After she reached adulthood, Tokiko was appointed to an executive position in the church due to her piousness. As her standing within the cult began to rise, she was able to see what was really going on behind the scenes. The leader's obscene acts, the vast amounts of money stockpiled from alms, the scandals surrounding the church. At some point, she realized that the place she was living was smothered in endless lies and greed. However, her faith still did not waver. The faith in the leader, indoctrinated into her from an early age, was still firmly rooted within her heart. Akao used her faith to take advantage of her. He made her take care of the cult's shady business, dangling presumed knowledge of the former leader's whereabouts as bait. She couldn't find it in her to disobey him.
I see.
Arishima-san exhales a deep sigh.
This is one convoluted story. My head's spinning.
I feel the same way.
So to sum it all up, the bizarre serial killings that happened this last month were all the work of this one man, Akao Ikuma. I suppose that seems logical.
Arishima-san muses to himself. Yeah, I guess. I nod, not exactly sure myself. It does seem to fit. But I've still got this doubt gnawing away at my heart. How did Akao meet Kohzuki Yura and then end up joining Senri? What led to Akao's brainwashing the members, and why did Shigasa Tokiko have those drugs on her? And above all else, why were Rin and Takiko-chan chosen as victims? Shigasa Tokiko's tale wasn't quite enough to dispel my doubts.
Shugo?
I whipped my head up at Arishima-san's question. I've still got some questions left, but I guess I have no choice but to ask Akao himself to get the answers.